Okay, so what we're doing in this section is we are talking about what does the C value do to something. And so the C value is, so your equation is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Last lesson we learned what A does, and A is what stretches or shrinks it. We're not going to talk about B yet, but today we're going to talk about what C does. Okay, so here's our parent function. Remember, this is our vertex right here, and it's a reflection on both sides of the axis of symmetry. For that one, the axis of symmetry is x equals 0, and so we need to see what the C value does. So what the C value does is it actually just takes the vertex and moves the vertex up or down. So if you have y equals x squared plus 3, it's going to take all your values and it's going to add 3 to the y. So it's going to shift it up to 0, 3. So the parent was at 0, 0, but now the new function, it's going to be at 0, 3. If I have y equals 4x squared minus 2, the parent's at 0, 0. The 4 just tells you that it's going to be a stretch. It's not going to actually move the vertex. But this negative 2 is going to move the vertex to 0, negative 2. Okay, so let's graph some of these so we can see what's happening. And so for this one, where's my pen? Oh, it was upside down. Okay, so for this one, your parent's at 0, 0, but it's going up 3. And we actually did this one here just by chance. So I go to 0, 3. And I know that's where my vertex is. So now to find out what I'm doing, remember there's been a pattern, but it's good to also plug things in. I'm going to pick a value on the right. So I'm going to plug in 1. So it'll be 1 squared plus 3. 1 squared plus 3 is 1 plus 3, which is 4. Now, remember this is our axis of symmetry. It goes here. So I know that on the reflection is the other side. Now let's do one more. Let me erase those. I just don't have space for it, so that's why I'm erasing. You don't have to erase. And so now I'm going to plug in x is 2. So 2 squared plus 3. 2 squared is 4, and 4 plus 3 is 7. So I'm going to go to 2, 7. And the reflection on this side is right here. And so there's the function. So essentially it just moved it up 3 spots because it's a plus 3. Okay, so why don't you try and see where number 2 is going to be? Where's the vertex going to be? That's right. It's going to be going down 1. This is going to make it go down 1. And again, that's where your axis of symmetry is. So I'm going to pick a point to the left and to the right. I'm always going to stick with the positive ones. It's a little easier. So I'm going to plug in a 1. So 2 times 1 squared minus 1. Well, 1 squared is 1. So I get 2 minus 1. And so this is going to be over 1 up 1. And then the reflection's on the other side. And then I'm going to use another color so it stands out. Now I'm going to plug in 2. And so this will be 2 squared minus 1. Okay, 2 squared is 4. And 4 times 2 is 8. So 8 minus 1 is 7. So it's going to be 2, 7. And here's the reflection on this side. And there's that parabola. Oops, I missed that point. All right, let's try this last one. Figure out if you can see where the, what's it called, is going to go. The vertex is going to go, and graph that. Okay, did you recognize that the vertex was just going to move up 2? So it's right here. And again, this is the axis of symmetry. So I can pick a point to the right. And so it'll be negative. And then when I plug something in, it goes inside parentheses. That negative stays in front. And so this becomes negative 1 plus 2, which is 1. So 1, 1. And then here's the reflection on this side. And let's change colors. I'm going to plug in 2. So negative 2 squared plus 2, which is negative 4 plus 2, which is negative 2. So the next one's at 2, negative 2. And here's the reflection over here. And there's that parabola. So really what's going on is that C value is just sliding it up and down. And the other stuff is stuff that we learned last time on these notes. Okay, let's see what's next. Okay, the next thing that we're going to have is we have something called a zero. You're going to see this a lot, so we need to be familiar with what that term is. The zero of a function is where the graph intercepts the x-axis. So right here, the graph intercepts right here. So that 0 is negative 1. And over here on this side, it intercepts at 1. So that 0 is 1. Sometimes you're going to list them as negative 1, comma 1. You'll never put parentheses around it because that would make it an ordered pair. They might also say x is negative 1, x is 1. All right, sometimes when you do this, you're going to have just 1 0, and this 1 0 is 3. So x is 3. So zeros are where it crosses the x-axis. All right, let's look at the last thing, which is a quick word problem. Oops. Okay, so the function f of t is negative 16t squared plus 64, represents the approximate height of a falling object t seconds after it hits the building. Okay, so let's see. So it says t, and that's the x-axis, that's time. And then the vertical axis is height. Now, even though this looks funny, we still treat it the same way. It's just a parent graph transformation, and what's happening is it's transforming up 64. So this is at 64. Now what happens is it goes up, and then it goes down, or it's just, I think it's not, well, it says that it's just dropped, so it's just dropping down. That's what happens. So that's at the vertex, that's at the high point. So the question is, how many seconds until it hits the ground? Right here, this is the height of 0. That's where it's going to hit the ground. We need to find that. Okay? So if you notice, I'm trying to find out when my height is 0. So what I can do is I can plug in 0 for height, because f of t is just height. So 0 equals negative 16t squared plus 64. And now I solve this problem. So I'm going to minus 64 on both sides. You like that marker? I like that marker. It's fun. Okay, so the 64s cross off. And now I'm going to divide by negative 16. And I'm going to get 4. Well, hopefully you remember how to get rid of a square root. Or I'm sorry, how to get rid of a square. I just gave you the answer. The opposite of squaring something is taking the square root. And when I take the square root, I should have 2 answers, because there's 2 answers that work. I have plus or minus 2. Well, a minus 2 would be over here, and I can't go back in time, so it's this one that I want. And so how many seconds does it take for the egg to hit the ground? 2 seconds, because it crosses at when t is 2, and that's the answer. Okay. So we've done a couple different things here. The second thing we were working on is identifying zeros, and the zeros are where it crosses the x-axis. And then over here, we practiced transformations with the change in c. And remember, when you change c, it's called a constant, and all that does is move up and down.